Hello, my name is Irene Karpadaiki from Peace, Health and Joy. I'm an educational psychologist, and today we are going to talk. We're talking with Ophelie about many different conditions: ADHD, ADD, anorexia, and do we forget something?
Anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, borderline personality disorder.
Okay. Hello, Ophelie.
Hello.
So we had a discussion before about your childhood and the school system, and not only the school system but also the system that is treating this kind of conditions, the psychiatry field, and how did this affect you and the lack of support that you
the lack of support, the immense lack of support that I've had all throughout my life. So I'm 39 now, and as an adult, I still have severe ADHD, so I live with that every day, and I also have chronic pain, so to manage both at the same time is quite a challenge. There is a big stigma around mental health because you can look fine and still be struggling immensely. And this, I'm speaking from experience because I've been suffering from depression since I'm 15. At the time, I also had an eating disorder, and I was severely underweight with anorexia. Now the eating disorder has gone. It's not a symptom anymore, but I understand now clearly how much it was a call for help. Because when you're struggling with mental health, it can not appear that you're struggling, and people don't often take it seriously. I know that when I broke my back, I got more support in the hospital from the nurses, from the people coming to see me, than I ever did all these years struggling with depression and ADD. And I was hospitalized 3 times in mental facilities under really difficult, severe conditions where all my rights and freedom were taken away from me.
Where were you hospitalized, and how old were you?
So the first time I was 15, that was in Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. Then I was 18 at Johns Hopkins. And then there were 2 more. The last one in the U.S. was in New York Presbyterian Hospital. And then the last time I was ever hospitalized for my mental health was in Paris. And those...
How was every experience? Can you describe me the first experience?
So the first one, I was 15, so I was still a child, and at the time being severely underweight, I was hospitalized in the eating disorder unit. So I had a feeding tube put down my throat, and for 6 weeks I was force-fed 4,000 calorie diet, which was really unhealthy, to put so much quantity, so many calories in such a short period of time in a body. So when I came out, I was like just blown up like a balloon. Second time, same thing for 10 weeks. And then the third time I was hospitalized in the U.S., it was in a real mental institution, let's say, where I had no freedom whatsoever. I could not go outside. I mean, the conditions were hardcore.
And what did you tell me about the support you received from the people there?
Support was extremely lacking. I mean, I have a lot of things I can talk about that I went through, the experiences, really traumatic experiences. But what I can say, well,
if you want to share something,
yes.
If it's not too...
I mean, if I'm gonna be really honest about it, in the U.S., if you have a private health insurance which pays, you can be you can stay in a mental hospital for a long, long time, even years. So it's not always a question of how your real state is, your mental state. It's maybe more a question of how much your insurance is paying. And that's how bad it is. In France, because I was hospitalized in a public hospital, it was different. And I'm not going to say that the conditions were much better. And something else happened to me in Paris, which was very traumatic. And maybe I'll talk about this in another episode, because
Okay, of course.
this is something that I won't mention the hospital either, because it's a long story with that hospital.
But what did you tell me about the authority in the institution?
So what I remember clearly is not, especially the last time I was hospitalized, when I think I was 23 or 24 in the US. And I never even had a chance to talk with the psychiatrist. I mean, he saw me and he immediately diagnosed me, I think, with being bipolar, even though I'm not bipolar. He gave me really strong medication. He never took the time to actually care about me and understand who I was, where I was coming from. My dad's insurance was paying huge amounts of money. So it was thousands and thousands of dollars to keep me in that hospital.
Wow.
And then finally my dad flew over from France to get me out. So it's only because he came physically to get me out that I came out. Yeah.
And you told me also you had an experience with a psychologist who was sleeping. You were paying extremely
so that was
big amounts
a
of
private psychologist or psychiatrist. When I was a teenager, I remember going to see a psychiatrist who was falling asleep. He was like in his 70s, and he was falling asleep when I was in therapy. Like I was really boring or something. And I was like, how could this guy possibly understand what a 15-year-old girl is going through, and the needs of a teenager in terms of, relationships, in terms of, your body, how it's changing, being a woman. I mean, what the fuck, honestly? Like, I just don't understand how it's possible that people around me would think that that would be like a good match for me.
And what would be the ideal education system for you to be able to support people with various conditions?
I think definitely we need to have education awareness on emotional intelligence, how to manage, how to regulate your emotions, how to understand them. Also, how to connect and work with other people instead of being always in a competitive environment. How to learn also to reach out when you need help and not be scared. In my case, I kind of also felt extremely disillusioned after all these years of therapy where I didn't find the proper support. So I didn't even want to reach out anymore, because I find that with mental health, it's so tricky, because oftentimes people cannot really understand how severe it is, because you can look fine from the outside, like I'm looking like
beautiful,
fine, right?
And going to clubbing as well.
Yeah, like going out, going dancing. I mean, it's part of my life. I love electronic music, and I don't see why I wouldn't go out, because I'm struggling with depression or anxiety or
But
ADD.
what other people tell you? For example, your mother.
A lot of time, not my mom, but a lot of people around me and family members also, and have told me that. And also because I have chronic pain after an accident where I broke my back, and I'm living with chronic pain now, and I don't look like I have a broken back, right? So oftentimes people have told me, well, if you had so much pain in your back, or if you're struggling so much with depression, how come you're able to do all these sports, or how come you're able to go out dancing. Well, actually, if I didn't, I'd be dead, to be honest, because that's what keeps me alive, you know? It's what keeps me going. It's the energy, it's the movement, it's the connection with other people.
Absolutely.
If I was staying home all day, you know, in bed because I had pain in my back, then yeah, I'd be dead already. So
it's the judgment also from others that they are not supportive.
There's an incredible stigma around mental health. I know that oftentimes I'm not able to really talk about what I'm going through because it scares people, because it triggers them, because they don't understand. In my family, for instance, I remember also for me a very traumatic experience was when I did my yoga teacher training. I was not at all supported. I was going through a really, really bad depression, and I had this incredible pain in my back with I have titanium rods supporting my lower back after an accident, and it was.
Can you describe how did this accident happen?
Well, this accident happened trying to escape through a window of my last hospitalization, which was in Paris, where I was not.
Why?
Well, I wasn't. How do you say in English? Surveyed, surveillé. You know, they didn't protect me. I was in the hospital because I was a danger to myself, and they did not protect me. So I tried to escape through the window, and I broke my back, which never happens usually in a mental hospital. So that's a whole other story.
Do you mean you were not guarded?
I wasn't guarded.
Okay.
So it's institutional negligence. It's the negligence of the hospital.
And what made you wanting to escape? That's the question.
I was in a room with a girl who was schizophrenic and who was threatening to kill me. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen to me. I didn't see a psychiatrist. He was on vacation. It was in June. I didn't have any, kind of structure in that unit. I was really scared, and I really wanted to get the hell out of there. And I did not trust that environment at all. And because I have this anxious nature, when I'm in a place where I'm locked up and I feel it's not safe, I need to get out. I need to escape.
Right. And you told me that the support you were receiving was actually zero, right? Throughout all those years.
Throughout these years, it's been extremely, extremely difficult because I have ADD and I'm not consistent. Because of my own nature, it's extremely hard for me already to find the proper support and to stick to something. And then the people around me don't really understand what I'm going through. Oftentimes are not supportive, and even oftentimes are quite judgmental, which makes it even harder for me to deal with this condition. So it's been really a fucking hell, honestly. Fucking hell. And I can say that what helps me is when I start to read about other people like me, when I read about ADD, ADHD, when I watch videos, I inform myself, I educate myself on my own, not with a therapist, not with a psychiatrist. When I actually see other people who are going through the same thing, it actually makes me feel, wow, I'm not alone in this. There are other people who are going through it. And then you see that there are solutions, right?
Exactly. So self-education is more effective and helpful for you than the traditional educational system in both
the traditional
US
psychiatric system. Yes, definitely.
and the educational system, right?
And the educational system. I mean, from my experience now, I've been 1 year back in Paris, struggling to find a proper treatment for my mental health. I've been waiting for 6 months for an appointment with a psychiatrist who specializes in ADD. I could be dead. I mean, it's just crazy. I do not find at all the support I need. And when I go to see a private psychiatrist, the last one, I paid 250 euros, which is a huge sum of money just to see a psychiatrist. And I don't feel that they really care. Like, I started to take medication, and I wrote to the doctor and I said, I don't feel good, what should I do? You know, he doesn't answer. So for me, that's like not supportive. So then it makes me distrust these people.
So you pay 250 euros, you go there, and he just signs you a paper to take the medication?
Exactly. That's how much he cares, really.
And how do you think that we can create a treatment support? You told me that you would prefer to live in a community. Why?
I feel that for me, with my nature, how I am today, then it could change also. But considering how the ADD affects my life, and it's extremely difficult for me to manage my day-to-day life and have a routine and know what I should buy to eat and how much sleep I should get to manage myself, basically. I think that I would benefit probably from being in a community with other people who are like me, where you have a structured environment, routines to follow, you take your meals together. You don't have to think about all these things, and then you have time to think about other things that are important and time for creative outlet, because I'm so drained from just trying to survive that I never relax and I never give myself the chance to be creative or to read a book or to write, because I'm always struggling to live.
Life feels like a constant struggle.
Yeah, I'm just hustling through this life.
And you told me you have been to the US, both the US, because you were raised.
I was born and raised in the US in Washington, D.C. So
you have tried both Europe and the US system?
I'm French American, and I've seen both sides. I've been in both worlds. I've been hospitalized in a French psychiatric hospital. I've been hospitalized in American institutions. So I know how they are, and I mean, the difference between the systems is quite clear. I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, to be honest. I've never really found a place where it's actually a healing environment, where they actually care about you on a human level. So yeah, that's my experience with the mental health system.
And the education system as well, they were not supportive at all, right?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, since I was 14, I already started to feel depression, and at that time I developed an eating disorder, and I did not get at all the support I needed. I struggled. I mean, I barely made it through high school. Like, just kind of every day, barely making it through. I don't know how I even survived those years. And they were so difficult for me. Like, I was just like in a really bad depression. Never felt that the people in my school even understood 1/100th of what I was going through, you know. And like when I was
1%.
when I was talking about how I felt, or when I was talking about my struggles, it scared people more than anything, you know. So I did not get the healing, you know.
So you think there is no education as well and awareness of what is like to have a condition, and
there's a big stigma still around mental health.
Still today.
I mean, now it's been 15 years, you know, or more actually. It's been 15 years since I graduated from college, so it's been like 25 years since I was in high school. So I don't know how it is now, but at my time.
But you feel this still today from the people, the environment that you live in?
I still feel how difficult it is.
The people you discuss and you encounter?
I find that also in France, people talk much less about mental health. There's still quite a stigma around that. In the US, you talk much more openly about these things. You know, you can talk about anything nowadays in the US. But in France...
But not in Paris?
in Paris, it's more open-minded, but still, there's a lot of things that, like, I feel this stigma myself. Like, I feel that when I talk about what I'm going through, either it scares people or they feel uncomfortable. It triggers something, in them. And I can understand maybe also because if I was not going through that and let's see, someone has an illness that I don't have, it's true that you feel always some sort of kind of I don't know,
uncomfortable
discomfort because you don't really know what to say or how the person's feeling, how much is true or not, so I get that. I just know what I'm going through, and I just know that I would have really benefited from proper guidance and support as all those years as a teenager growing up, being extremely sensitive, highly emotional kid and teenager and adult, and that I felt really extremely vulnerable.
Can you please remind me an example for when you were a child? You told me that the subject that you really hated the most was ironically gymnastics.
Yep.
Physical education. Can you explain why?
So I have a trauma. I've been traumatized by my high school years when we were in PE, physical education class. I remember like vividly the moments where the teams for like volleyball or basketball or whatever, softball, were forming, and the teacher would be like, okay, he would pick two people and be like, okay, you guys pick your teams. That's how bad it was. Like, I remember always being picked last.
So there were two leaders?
Two leaders, and then the rest of us, we just had to wait for the person to pick us. So I would just leave the classroom, and I would come back at the end, knowing that they would pick me at the end anyways, and then so I would be the last one left, and I wouldn't have to go through the embarrassment of not being picked until the end of the picking thing. So
What does this create?
That made me feel so bad. I mean, it broke me. It broke my heart every time. I felt like I wasn't worthy. Actually, that made me feel like I wasn't deserving, that I was not a good person, and that I was not worthy. So then, of course, you live up to that prophecy, like you're like, oh my God, maybe I'm really bad. Maybe I'm really bad at sports. So maybe I'm just not gonna, bother.
Do you think that this
it affected my self-esteem
your
so much
until today?
Because I'm a hyperactive person. I'm super active. I always do. I love movement and I do a lot of sports. But because I have such low self-esteem now, I never was able to feel comfortable kind of, for instance, I skate a lot. I rollerblade. And I could teach like rollerblading, or, I trained to do yoga and to be a teacher. But I always feel like at the moment where I have to put myself out there, I feel I don't have the self-esteem, like the confidence.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the last question for this video. Can you please tell us, for you, what is the ideal support system that you think it would help people?
Yeah, at a young age already. So I think in school, instead of teaching us things that we will never use as an adult and that really are not important, unless you become like a scientist or something, but even so, like a lot of things like math, algebra, whatever, geography, right now, it's not useful for me, like when I'm trying to survive. Like, I think what is really important to learn is emotional intelligence, how to manage your emotions, how to regulate your emotions, how to manage your time, how to organize yourself, how to communicate your relationship with other people. how to work together instead of being competitive.
Team building.
Basic human things that we all should learn, so that we wouldn't end up like, in wars with each other as adults.
However, they're not incorporated in the majority of the school systems.
And also probably like a time with a counselor so that the child can maybe talk about what they like and everything, and be given a chance to maybe try something different, like because often probably children have certain talents that are never developed because they have to follow like a whole kind of like generalized class, and not open to kind of creative or other ways.
Thank you so much, and we're going to talk about more things and more thoroughly in another interview. Excuses for the noise, but we are in a public place, so. But we decided that it's really important. This is an interview I took from Ophelie because I'm completing my dissertation in my master's. But we decided together that these things are really important to be published.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to bring awareness around mental health. From my own experience, I also know other people who struggle, some really good friends who also have depression or have had depression, suicidal thoughts, everything, and it exists, it is a real struggle, and it needs to be acknowledged and listened to, because maybe you can be crying for help many times, okay, because you're struggling, but then there could be that time where it's finished, right? Like, that's done, and you would want to have actually been there for the person that you love. So
we feel the need to prevent more lives from suffering, more children and young people, and
from
adults,
bullying,
everybody.
Yeah, more awareness also around bullying in high school, which is a big thing, and
yeah, we all need to. Everybody needs to learn these things. And are you currently? Do you want to start writing a book about sharing your experience?
I want to write a book about my journey with mental health, and that whole system around it, and my accident breaking my back, and basically how I'm feeling from that.
So we're going to put every link in the description, and we'll keep you posted when the book is ready. Thank you for watching, and let's all make a promise that we're going to improve this world.
Yes.
Around these issues, because we tend to talk a lot behind the scenes, but these things need to be addressed finally. So it's not something that it needs to stay in a library, in a very closed environment, but we need to open up the discussion in public, and to help anybody around us, because the whole world, we're a big community, and if we really understand that, many lives will be saved, and we will prevent the issues that are happening and are being created later. So thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.